This webinar is being
Do I need to repeat all that? You got to make me do that, right? The council is, okay, I will do it. The council is holding this public meeting to give the county's Department of Housing and Community Development an opportunity to provide the council and the public information related to housing needs in Baltimore County. We are joined today by Housing and Community Development Director Terry Hickey. Mr. Hickey, we are pleased to have you and your staff before us today and hear your presentation. The floor is yours. Thank you, sir.
It myself. We're going to give you paper copies that in an effort to save county funds, we ran off in black and white. So when we talk about colors on the slides, you'll want to look at the screens, but that'll give you a chance to play along close. Tom printed in color. So I do want to let you know.
We saved several dollars a copy, except some of the graphics we won't be able to understand.
Right. We're off to a good start. And I do just want to acknowledge Joe Beller is here with us, our Deputy Policy Chief, who's going to keep us moving forward, and Rex McGroder, who is our data analyst, who, when you start asking really deep, weedy statistical questions, we're going to defer to him. So we'll start with the beginning. Again, just want to thank you for having us here. This long time coming, actually exciting discussion. It's the county's first ever official housing needs assessment. You know that the topic of housing is a growing public concern around the country. It's something we talk about in this room and in county government often, but too frequently in these conversations, we've relied upon national or regional studies or anecdotes. And we thought that for a problem of this scope and magnitude, we want to have a chance to look closely at our own numbers. We want to be able to talk and lead with facts. And really what we hope to do here is to put the numbers out front, let that drive a public conversation. We really thank you giving us the opportunity to do it here. Hopefully folks are listening in. We want to make this data public and hopefully generate positive collaborative discussions about housing and the need in the county. So, a little bit of framing. What is the housing needs assessment? If you have the whole version, it's a little over 100 different slides, so it's fairly weighty. When we do release this on the county website, we'll have a short executive summary to go along with it. And obviously, don't get too worried. What we're going to show you tonight is a hyper-condensed version. We won't go through all 100 slides, I promise. It's an analysis of the county's current population and housing stock. It's a projection of how the county's population will likely change over the next 10 to 15 years. It's an assessment of the current housing stock's ability to meet the needs of current residents, and it's an overview of potential changes that may be needed for the county's housing stock to meet the needs of current and future residents. To get this done, we collaborated with Guidehouse Consulting and prominently the University of Pennsylvania's Housing Initiative at Penn to conduct the assessment over the last several months. I think you all know this, but just to say for the public, DHCD largely has framed the housing discussion around the VCA, for better or worse, which we know is not a housing strategy. While work remains ongoing to ensure that the terms of the agreement are met, the agency recognizes that a comprehensive collaborative strategy is necessary to guide housing production efforts beyond our March 2028 deadline. We have to have a real plan. We have to have real numbers. And a strategy requires specific localized data that captures in detail the state of our current housing stock, our deficiencies, and where we go from here. I'll bottom line it up front, and then we're going to hit on some key findings in the report. I'm not going to shock anybody by telling you that the assessment shows the county faces a housing challenge. There are some things in here, though, that I think give a lot of context, make these numbers more relatable, may even be a little surprising. But we know there's not enough housing to meet current need, nonetheless future projected needs in the county. And even maybe more interesting when you dig into the numbers is our existing housing stock is not necessarily aligned with the current population and households living in the county, and specifically not where we're going. So it's easy to say we have a shortage, but we may also have a misalignment. And that misalignment may look different across the county and may impact your districts differently and may require a joint, but in some ways variated plan for what's going to make sense to address these. So we've broken the challenges into 6 main categories. What I want to do, Joel's going to put a table up right here. A lot of you know it, but for the public's sake, we're going to say this a lot. But before we dig in, I want to give a quick overview of a very key term that shows up throughout the assessment. It's area median income, or AMI. Don't love the idea of reducing families to percentages, but we need some sort of equitable formula when we're looking at our investment in affordable housing. We need a consistent method that ensures units are affordable to specific types of residents over a specific amount of time. And when the county makes an investment in a project, we want to force the developer or builder to lock in rents to meet the need that the county anticipates in relation to its investment. So this shows you, these are 2025 AMI income thresholds. So it's essentially income bands on the left, and then noted with the amount of persons in the household on the top that gives you that AMI amount. So when we talk about a family of 4 at 60% AMI, and 60% happens to be one of the sort of core fundamental affordable numbers, it's also what our VCA is tied to. So family of 4, 60% AMI, that family would need to be making approximately $72,000 annually. And when we talk about a unit that's reserved for a household at 60% AMI, that means the unit must be rented to a family making no more than that income, and the rent of that unit has to be set at a level that's reasonable so that that family can pay the rent and not have to spend more than about 1/3 of their gross income in housing costs. So in this particular example, the maximum rent for that 60% AMI family would be about $1,800 a month to ensure the family stays under the threshold of 30%. These AMI amounts are set by HUD and they're updated annually. So, assessment results. The first finding, and this is kind of the main headline, is that the county is presently experiencing, so this is now, a severe shortage of housing at the lowest income bracket. But I think it's important to talk a little bit about why and what that looks like. The assessment found the county has 23,840 existing renter households at 30% or below AMI, which is the lowest income band, but only about 5,000 units of affordable and available housing for families at that income level. The shortage nets out to just under 19,000 units. I'll say it now because I think it's going to come up over and over, and in some of our conversations, what we've talked about is this isn't about just needing to focus on building units at only that AMI. We're looking at the entire ecosystem of housing and what the lack of production has done along that continuum, but obviously has had a disproportionate impact on people at the lowest end of that spectrum. But what we want to be clear about is that the assessment was measuring current residents, what they currently make, at least under census figures, and the units that we know are available. So when we talk about that 19,000, what we want to dig into a bit is they're here, they're living in the county, they're working, they're paying rent or some kind of housing subsidy. Where are they and what impact does this have on the entire housing ecosystem? So what this means is we have about 19,000 families at the lowest income level who are at best what we call cost burdened. That means at least about 30% of their gross salary goes to some type of housing cost and utilities. 80% of all families in that income bracket who are currently living in homes they can't reasonably afford because there's nothing else available in the county to rent. If they want to stay here and they want to be housed, they have to find a way to pay for a unit that is in most cases statistically much more than they are reasonably able to pay. But that shortage has a cascading effect throughout the entire spectrum in the county, particularly on higher income level households. Because of the lack of production, they're effectively all fighting for the same units on the market. That's why we see 44% of all renter households from 30 to 60% AMI as cost burden. That's about 13,000 households. 18% of renter households up to 80% AMI are cost burdened as well. Go to the next slide. So this just sort of gives you, what I'll do is, we'll do it quickly, but I'll kind of talk it through and then we'll give you a graphic depiction from the actual housing needs assessment. But what you can see, that shortage of almost 19,000 units is illustrated by the green line at the bottom of your slide.
Just have a question.
Sure.
Cost burden renter households.
Yes.
80% of the households are under 30%. And does that mean, under 30% is good, right?
80% of those living at 30% or below AMI would be cost burdened, meaning even at that income level, they're paying more than 30%. So it's a disproportionate impact on our lowest income residents are spending a much higher percentage of their income on housing.
So why does it say under 30%?
Where are you looking, sir?
Where it says 80% of households.
Okay, want to go back?
See,
So 80% of households at 30% or below AMI are cost burdened. 44% of households that make between 30 and 60% AMI are burdened, and 18% of those in that 60 to 80% band are cost burdened.
how do these three numbers, the 18.9, the 13.1, and the 31, how do they interact? I mean,
So they're individual bands. So
you
if you're a
would-
household in that less than 30% band, you are, 80% of that group is cost burdened. So we're looking at slices of each based on income.
so you wouldn't take 13.1 and 3,100 and add them together and subtract from 18.9?
No,
No, okay, so they're totally.
correct,
Gotcha. Okay,
correct,
Each category is that.
correct.
okay.
Yes. And what you're going to see in a minute, though, when you do the aggregate, the numbers are pretty shocking, too. So we'll go there in a sec. So back to, there we go. So that green line shows the housing gap at the bottom. At first glance, if you look at the lines above, it looks like we might actually have enough housing for all of the other income bands. The challenge that we learned from the assessment is that people are being forced to consume units that are at lower price points, which mean they're not available for folks at the bottom. So if you just keep squeezing that bubble at the bottom, the folks at the bottom are only able to live in the county if they're renting a unit that is in some cases significantly above what they can comfortably afford. That's that cascading effect I talked about earlier, and it's a contributing factor to why we see cost burdening throughout all of the other AMIs. Go to the next one, and this is just, we'll go through this quick, but it's essentially, this is one of the more interesting slides. It effectively shows the yellow, and I want to focus on the one on the right. So if we look over there, the slide provides a visual. In the chart, the yellow line shows the depth of the issue across the different levels. So what it really means is, and I think, Councilman Koch, this gets a little bit to what you're talking about. So if that first column are renters in the county whose households make less than 30% AMI, 80% of them in that band are living in housing where they are at least cost burdened, if not extremely. And if you start to move to the right, you see more and more that they're getting priced out. So under the 30 to 60%, 44% are cost burdened, then 18%. And then by the time we get to 80 to 100 and 100, the interesting thing are the red are people living in units that are less expensive than what they could afford. They're living there as well because it's all they can find on the market. So that's where we're getting the pressure together. People are consuming down and people are being pushed either out of the housing market or renting units that they may not be able to afford, which is causing across the board a different variety of cost burdening. When we look at the aggregate numbers, 55% of all county renters across all income bands, 55% would be considered at least moderately cost burdened, spending at least a third of their salary on rent and utilities. 29% of that group, which is pretty high compared to the national average, are extremely cost burdened, which means they're spending a half or more of their income on rent or utilities, which would put us in a fairly high setting. Go to 8. So just to go through cost burdening a little bit, I think this is one of the more important findings in the study because a lot of this all impacts upon what people are actually doing who are living in the county and the impact it's having upon the funds that they're able to spend on other elements of their life other than housing. But looking at this slide, we see cost burdening is most acutely seen in renter households at the lowest income levels. So over 90% of renters in every income bracket below 50% experience cost burdening. As we go up the line, over half of renter households making between 50 and 75% are cost burdened, and nearly a quarter of renter households at 75 to 100,000 are cost burdened. In total, almost 110,000 cost burdened households. When you start to look at that across the board, we just have a tremendous number of people that are spending a very large percentage of their take-home pay on rent, is the bottom line there. Next slide. Yes, sir.
Question, and you had said earlier, is it your belief, you're saying that you think there are people that can afford to pay more, but they can't find, some people who can afford to pay more, but there's no housing that they can find. So they're renting someplace maybe that they don't necessarily, I don't know if they not want to be there, but they're renting a place cheaper or because there's nowhere else to go, and that takes up housing where someone who makes less, who might be able to get an apartment at that same place, but it's occupied because.
Right. If you looked at it almost like a three-dimensional model, right? You've got the availability. So you go out to rent a place, there's what you can actually find when you're looking across the county, and then there's the types of units and what they're charging. So if you are at a certain middle-class income, we're talking mostly about the middle, right? If you're at a certain income level and you know what you can afford in rent, you may not be able to find anything at that price point. You may find deals. You may find an older apartment. You may find it in a place you hadn't thought about living. But the fact of the matter is whether you wanted to be there or not, obviously don't measure that, what the satisfaction level is. You're consuming a unit that technically could have gone to a family that can't afford any more than that. And so eventually you just keep pushing the bubble down. I mean, we don't talk about this here. If you look at the comptroller's report on housing, you could put these together and theorize some people that can't find what they want at the price point, but they have options, maybe leaving. The folks that really don't have a lot of options, their kids are in school, they have a job here, and my analogy I've been using is you go to all the car dealerships in the county and you have to have a car and you need it quickly, and they're out of everything but the highest priced cars, but you're able to at least have enough credit to get that car, then you have to manage the payments. It's not what you would have chosen, but it's about options. And eventually we talk about it in here, but we have downsizing seniors competing for the same units as folks getting out of college, folks moving out of their parents' homes. And then you have families that can only afford that much housing, all sort of competing for the same limited production. And because you don't have the choice, you start to have conflict. And then you see these numbers here, which are aggregate.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So what we wanted to make sure, and the study does not focus primarily on homeownership, but I've had conversations with most, if not all of you, about the importance of homeownership and how connected those things are. So it does at least look at some similar data points for homeownership, but keeping in mind, obviously, part of that cycle of housing is having a living arrangement where you can save money for a down payment, and then it's about inventory. And with a home purchase, it really does become where and how and what makes sense for you. So on the homeownership side, we obviously see a deeper impact at lower levels, but we're still seeing impact 39% of homeowners making between $50,000 to $75,000 a year, and almost 20% of homeowners up to $100,000 a year are cost burdened. So they own a home and their mortgage payments and related costs make them cost burdened as well. And you can see that the spikes are spread out across a wide array of income levels. If we want to go to the next, that'll show you the graphic. Yep, go one more. There you go. So that's your graphic depiction of cost burden for lower income owners. And you can see that with some spike, it's really spread across the bottom. All right, go to 10. Okay, so that talks about cost burdening. The second headline in the assessment really gets into county existing housing stock and its alignment with households actually living in the county. So to understand this, the needs assessment looked at trends in our current population. So we know that population growth in the county has been slow over the past few years. We've talked about that before. The assessment predicts the trend will continue with a projected growth of roughly 8,400 residents by 2037. But this figure will be outpaced by the growth in the number of households, which is expected to grow by over 12,000 households in the same time period. So when we saw this, we thought probably the same thing people listening are thinking. How does population stay flat, but you have more households? It's been a national trend that I think you're aware of as well, that it's a downward trend in average household size. So even as population flattens, people are getting married later or not getting married at all. People are downsizing. We have a high senior population that may be downsizing as a small family unit. We have people that are getting married in later in life or not at all. So when you start to look at the numbers, 65% of county households are made up of either one or two individuals, which was a bit of a surprising number to us. Only 37.5% of all housing units in the county are studios, 1 or 2 bedrooms. So in addition to the challenges an average smaller family finds in finding affordable and available housing, they're also contending with the fact that a number of the units on the market, either for purchase or rent, may be larger than what they need, or more importantly, larger than what they can afford. So a single family home with 4 or 5 bedrooms in a certain part of the county may be affordable to a larger family, but not to the majority of folks that the study tells us are out there looking for housing now. So we have a potential mismatch in housing stock in addition to the overall lack of production. Slide 11. So this is a visualization of that issue. So the red and yellow portions on the left show our percentage of 1 to 2 person households, while the same colors on the right show our studios, 1s and 2 bedrooms. Notice also how units with 4 or more bedrooms have grown to now make up about 1/4 of all units. And then I want to show you quickly, this kind of puts you can't see the bottom, but you'll see it on your sheet because the closed captioning is covering it up, which means I'm going to read from it on mine. So what it means is that within the last decade, so between 2013 and 2023, the net number of households with 3 or more members, just apples to apples, the net number of households with 3 or more members decreased by 2,165. During that same 10-year time period, the county added over twice as many net units with 3 or more bedrooms than it did 2 or below. So we lost 2,165 in larger household units, but we added 10,000 additional units that were 3 bedrooms or more. So without any real strategy or planning, the market is driving larger units while our family sizes are condensing. So over time, whether it's rental or home ownership, and we've had these conversations, we don't necessarily have a product that's tailored to what the people are going to be looking for. And then what limited product is there, there'll be a lot of competition for the units. And if the market does what the market usually does, you'll see more of those units at higher price points than a number of the people we know that are looking for units that size can afford. So again, it's about affordability, but it's really about alignment, knowing the population trends and trying to map out the housing that makes sense for those folks that are looking.
Mr. Chair, Terry, I'm sorry,
Yes,
is
sir.
now a good time for a question on this?
Sir, you can ask whatever you like.
Yeah, but I didn't know if you wanted to finish your point on this particular slide first. I thought you were done.
This one's good. Go for it, because
Okay.
we're going to get into like
Sure.
aging housing.
So there's obviously over the past decade, there's been sort of a cultural and societal and really consumer behavior that's quite different than, say, my parents' generation, or even my generation, that you get married, you have your 2.4 kids, and you start off in an apartment made for that, and then you eventually graduate into home ownership. And I can sense that in younger generations, that's not necessarily what they want. I think in general in the United States, people are having less children. I think that's correct. And in talking to some young people, they're not necessarily interested in big house. They'd rather have experiences and go to parks and play pickleball and whatever, I don't know. So I'm just wondering, in this study or just in general, have you spoken with the development community? I mean, do they have any prognostications besides financial projections of a particular proposed development and saying, well, if more 3-bedroom units, we can raise the cost, but now it turns out that they may be even more difficult to rent. I don't know how many vacancies we have in that size unit, but so have they, to your knowledge, has the development community done any sort of studies or future projections on these no one has a crystal ball, but there are people that look out into the future and look at the trends that may be coming up. You see where I'm heading with the question?
No, I
I'm
do.
sorry if it's sort of
No, it's really
not
good.
very well articulated, but.
No, and I'm thinking through this as you go, because we've been tossing this around too. Like the other thing I'm really curious about that you led with is there are these trends about what people are looking for in housing. And what I don't think we know sitting here today is, and I'm sure it's a little bit of both, but are these changes going to drive housing? Is the availability of housing changing people's decisions and behavior? A little bit of both. We know things are definitely changing.
Chicken and egg, right?
Yeah, classic. And I think we will see what people choose to do as these opportunities are there. I will tell you, because I know somebody's going to point it out, the VCA, for instance, was heavily overweight on 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom units because of the perception at the time the VCA was signed of the need for families that were searching for housing. So as a small scale task of getting those units online, that's one thing, but developers have ironically been telling us for years that they're not building to the 3 and 4 bedrooms. I think we've been getting a lot more questions, maybe nothing like you had suggested about it. I'm sure there's studies, but in our conversations, we're getting a lot more developers, even of the multifamily variety, that are asking about infill or even scattered site, rehab of vacant homes or small multifamily or multiplexes, quads, it's almost like what's old is new, what's new is old. We're getting more questions about those, which will raise ultimately questions about where and how does that interact with zoning and land use, which we're not getting into here. But I think there's a lot of interest in catering to that trend that you just talked about, for sure, from the development community.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's sort of it's an interesting conundrum where, I mean, to boil it down, our housing stock is simply not reflective of the way that the renter market is behaving right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I got it. I'm gonna steal your words. You did a good job of summarizing. That might be one of the biggest takeaways. And I'll get to the conclusions, but it does point to this idea that if we're thinking in terms of this, it might be easier for all of us to start to think about solution strategies. And I want to emphasize, and we're realistic about this, these solutions are going to look different in each of your districts, but they roll up into a plan. But they should look what makes sense in the unique communities that make up who you represent. I can't say that enough, because the other one, and I was thinking, Councilman Crandall, we've talked about this too, the housing stock, this is the other thing we found, and some of these may be obvious to some, but you put this all together, the housing stock in the county is very old. 32% of the county's housing units were built before 1960. It's almost a third. 58% before 1980. 85% of all the housing stock in Baltimore County is at least a quarter century old. That brings with it a lot of things you could think about, right? We've talked about these. You've got aging developments, you've got aging homes. We get calls all the time for seniors who need repairs on major systems in their homes. It may impact, in some cases, the accessibility of more affordable housing because it's older and they haven't had the money to put into repairs or modernization. We might be giving ourselves a false hope of affordable options when people are really being asked to choose to live in apartments that might pass inspections but aren't necessarily the types of modern energy efficient homes we'd like to see. Older housing stock is also ripe for transfer, for purchase and sale. And we know from experience, older housing stock that gets bought can go in a couple of different directions. It can be run into the ground more, which is a problem, or it can be gentrified, rents raised, and people no longer have a place to live there. So we say this to say, and I'm sorry, I see these questions, but we say this to say, we can't just be focused on new construction. Even though this idea of new production is so prevalent, we have to stay vigilant on preservation as well, or we run the risk of losing the foundation that we've already got. I'll pause on that because I see there's lights.
Yeah, I think you know what I'm going to ask about. But, and I want to ask this, even though I know you have a lot to go through. You're completely right about the aging of the housing stock. Belmont Dunfield, right? Huge townhome community between Bel Air Road and Joppa Road. And not only is the housing physically deteriorating, but they are serviced by roads that they own. So the condominium associations cannot afford to maintain their infrastructure. It's a death spiral, right? They can't maintain the roads, so therefore people don't move in, so therefore nothing ever gets done. The community continues to deteriorate. Right. Are we going to come up with some ideas on how to help communities like that?
I think
it's huge.
It's huge. Well, and there's not to get too far afield, but there's different pieces in there, right? There's what's going to happen to developments like those when they're sold. Can we use those sales as an opportunity to intervene and put some limited resources to ensure that in that transfer there's uplift? The HOA question and infrastructure is probably well above my expertise, and that's the multi-billion-dollar question. But you do have aging housing stock across the county, and you have people starting to default on their mortgages or rents in HOA communities, which are also, I hear you loud and clear. Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Related to the aging housing stock, and you had mentioned too, and I want to give you a chance to kind of pull this out. We might be, I'm trying to use your words, not kidding ourselves, but we might be looking at an inaccurate number of affordable units based on the fact that some of these housing pieces, we don't have an option for accessibility, specifically when it comes to folks with disabilities that may not have as many options. And I think has been a criticism too of the VCA and then the focus on one particular thing that now has created more affordable units. But just because of affordable unit doesn't automatically mean that it's an accessible unit.
Correct. I'm going to speak in generalities because we get in the weeds quick, but accessible housing is easiest to do in new construction. And I think all of you on the council know that new construction takes a long time, and new construction to scale doesn't necessarily fit or belong everywhere. So we have a number of, for instance, all of our new construction deals are going to have accessible units as part of it, but they're also designed in ways to be more accessible. Single family homes are the hardest to make accessible after the fact, particularly wheelchair accessibility. So it's fair to say that we have a significant accessible housing issue in the county at all income levels, right? Same thing applies. People can't find an accessible home. They're not going to stay unless they have the money to retrofit. On the aging piece, I think there was a question before the accessibility one, though. I'll make sure I got them both.
It was tied to well, it makes sense with the
I remember.
number of aging units too.
Right.
When you can turn an aging unit into an affordable housing option,
Right.
but that doesn't automatically mean that it's accessible.
You can point, it goes back to Councilman Marks' comment. You can point to a number of housing in the county that seems affordable, that doesn't have subsidy. If the market is underpricing housing, there's got to be a reason for it. And generally speaking, the age and condition of the property. So we may have units now that look affordable and that fit into that early slide where it looks like we've got that middle housing. But if that housing gets sold, if it deteriorates so badly, or people just don't want it anymore, because to Chair Ertel's point, I don't want to live there now and I have other options. Those options mean moving. For folks who are embedded in the community and of a lower income who really can't go anywhere, what we found in the numbers, and I'm going to get to this in a minute, is, again, your choices are you rent whatever you can get, and it's a slog to find, and then you fight to get the unit, and then your first thought is, oh my goodness, we have no money left after I pay rent, but we got to stay. Or you're doubled and tripled up. And can we do this? Do you mind real quick? I just want to jump to this.
I mean, so I was going to hold off any other
Because this kind of fits in with that. Can you jump to the, so it's not giant red flag spikes, but it is important what we measured in the needs assessment is that on that change column between 2013 and 2023, overcrowded rental units, severely overcrowded rental units, and interestingly enough, overcrowded home ownership units, you're seeing a plus change of at least 1,000. If you add all this up, we have thousands of units in the county. And keep in mind, this is census data. We believe, if anything, this is probably very underreported for obvious reasons. But we have thousands of units in the county where people are living doubled and tripled up in units because that's their option if all the others fail. And it's not in the study, I don't want to get too far afield, but it's not, it would be, I have to at least mention when we look at our coordinated entry statistics, we are starting to see more and more county residents stating when they call for housing assistance or shelter that their last stable housing was rental or in some cases home ownership. So if you put it all together, lack of production, lack of options, overcrowded, older housing stock, and then starting to see the trickle turning into more than a trickle of people for the first time being homeless because they lost stable housing in the last few months. It's a canary. It's a warning that we want to pay attention to.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. I think Councilor Batoka was ahead of me.
Thank you, Councilor Graham. Just a quick observation. So you're looking at this solely from a point of housing stock and affordability, or are you looking at other factors? Because when you were talking about the decline of our housing stock, crossed my mind that just as an observation, I think school system is a huge factor in whether you let housing stock deteriorate or not. I'll give you an example. Let's take the Stevenson area in the 2nd District where they have a school, Fort Garrison, which is viewed as a high-performing school. So folks, when I was first running, when I was canvassing the area, people were in their, 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Their kids had already finished school. And their houses hadn't been renovated in 30 years. They had energy when they were younger and first moved in, renovated, the housing stock was good, but now it's dated 30 years later. So because the school system is viewed as a high-performing school system, a whole new generation of 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds move in, they perform their renovation on the house, and their kids go to what's perceived as a good school system. So I've always believed if we're able to elevate our school systems, then it has a ripple effect across the entire neighborhood, across the entire region. And so it's one of the reasons, the school overcrowding has been so important to me, because I've always felt that preventing school overcrowding, I should say, is important to me, is because it has this effect across the neighborhood, across the county, of making everybody work harder because they'll stay in their house. I was just talking to the chairman, and he told me that he built an addition on his house because he didn't want to move from the school system that his kids were districted to. So I'll just share that as an observation. You don't have to comment on it, or you can.
But I did just want to say, though, in general, I know it's ironic because we're doing a housing needs assessment, but probably the underlying message of the assessment is that housing should not be a standalone issue. It should be part of a strategy that brings everything together. I think we'd avoid a lot of the issues we have if we did it more holistically and more proactively and not reactively.
Sorry.
Sure, Terry, just a quick question. On this slide,
Yeah.
are these numbers derived from multifamily units only or from the whole gamut of rental registrations in Baltimore County?
So this is gleaned from census data.
Okay.
So it's not, that's a great point. It's not, so it's more of a conversation starter. So somebody on their census is talking about whether they're living doubled or tripled up. So that's why we think it's probably underreported, if anything.
Okay. All right. Understood. Thank you.
Sure. I did want, can you go back to the age of housing stock? It's neither here nor there, but I wanted to point out something. I found this interesting. If you go back and you look, this is across the board, units built by year in Baltimore County. I didn't go back and cross-reference the history, but I just found it interesting that our building spike of existing housing, the glory year of the glory decade was 1950 to 1959. So 18% of our housing stock was actually created in the 50s. That's still part of our inventory today. Okay, so jumping back, I think we did overcrowding. Just want to make sure we don't. That's just a graphic depiction of how we're starting, and you see the spikes in overcrowding. Just in case you notice, there's a gap there. We don't have data from the COVID year, but we think you can connect the dots pretty well on that one. And then slide 17 will go. So this is one that we think about because there's a section of the VCA that requires us to keep an eye on formally subsidized housing that's coming off subsidy. So when we come to you and ask for a pilot, or we're doing a LIHTC deal and we say it's going to be a 30 or 40 year period of affordability, there's actually units that went through LIHTC decades ago that are going to be aging out of affordability. And if we don't include them in our strategy, when that expires, they are open to being bought and converted into something else. So you could actually lose the affordability for some of these units that were built decades before. The needs assessment shows that we've got approximately 1,700 units that will expire their periods of affordability. Now, interestingly, because we weren't over the hill involved in LIHTC for decades like some other counties, we have less than some do, which are going to have major expiration problems. But 1,700 units in this environment is a lot. So any strategy that comes forward from this should be thinking about preservation of housing. A lot of our older affordable housing is senior focused. So we also really can't afford to be losing any senior restricted affordable housing either. In fact, we need more of it. So I'll leave that. I think what I wanted to leave you with, and I don't mean to be underwhelming, but I didn't want to present this to the public and say, and here's our secret plan for solving it all. I truly believe this. I think by putting the information out and not having conversations specific to one development in one part of the county, if we can start to dig into this, and we want people looking at this, talking about it, we want to come out to meetings and dig into it with people, answer questions. Folks have thoughts on things that might work, and we want to start to develop some consensus around the need. And I also think that one of the things you notice in this is we can all connect with parts of the story that the needs assessment is telling us. The competition we're seeing in these numbers for these limited amount of moderately priced housing, you're hearing all of this, right? You're hearing the competition for college grads, retirees, and then that whole missing middle piece. working class households, retail service workers, nurses, teachers, public safety personnel. Those are the ones out there looking for these units. And we're forcing this competition amongst folks at different income bands. We're not providing the variety. And that's really at the heart of it. And then renters who are at the bottom levels that are able to stay in that housing, hold in there and avoid eviction, they won't have saved any money. And one of the knocks on large-scale affordable housing is that the subsidies are so narrowly tailored that residents can't save the money to get out of that pattern, and that's a real problem. But if in the market we're allowing folks to get stuck in those units that they can't get out of, they can't save money to be a homeowner, they can't find that starter home, or they get stuck in the starter home. There's no movement in the market. And then we end up with all sorts of issues across the board. And we have limited resources. This is going to require some kind of prioritization to think about where we put very limited public subsidy and what we can get the market to do on its own. And to many of your credit in what you've told me, how does infrastructure keep pace with any of this housing planning? I will say, I think, and I'm going to talk a sec about potential actions, but if you want to look at it one way, Baltimore County has almost unlimited opportunity in this area. We have areas in need of redevelopment. We have areas where infill is possible. We have old housing stock. We have old commercial and retail stock that begs for something. So if we can get together around what the something is, if the something can include housing, and if it can include the appropriate infrastructure, at least we have areas to do this. I know other counties I hear from around the country are so built out with new stuff that they can't grow anymore. And I do think that if we take the right path, we could actually be a model for how to do this in the right way and not get bogged down in the fights. I do, because a lot of the fights are based on fair things that we don't have answers to sometimes. And so I do want to call out, you've been partners in this, the use of pilots, the creation of the Housing Opportunity Fund, and the judicial use of the funding there to sort of tweak these deals and get them moving. We've done really exciting work on preservation. We've done preservation with no federal subsidy, just with former market developers that are interested in coming in and uplifting that housing stock with a little bit of help and are willing to guarantee it is affordable. Location is going to be huge. How do we strategically determine where these things go and what they look like and at what levels and densities and what makes sense in that part of the county? How do we link these plans with Master Plan 2030? To what degree do we explore missing middle strategies that I had talked about before with small infill projects, mixed affordability models to be utilized to find units for low-income working families that are blended into community with others so that they're equitable, but they make sense in that particular community? Because I have to tell you, when you look at these numbers, the folks in those income bands we're talking about are in many cases the existing working families that are keeping the county moving and have kids or plan to have kids in our schools and be a part. So I think this is just meant to say it's important, the need is there, there's ways to approach it. We'll do a hard pause and say let the conversations start and let's see where we end up. But that's our nutshell.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the members? Yes, Councilman Ketch.
Yeah, I think that obviously what we do as a county is going to cost quite a bit of money, I would think. And I would suggest that we cherry pick in the beginning. What I mean by that is that we take a look at various approaches to this problem, and let's take a look at the ones that don't cost as much, and hopefully we can begin to turn around various areas. I know in your county, Anne Arundel County, that, and I don't know if the program still exists, but for seniors who have incomes below a certain point, they can get money from the county to improve their homes. Let's say if it needs painting or you need to have the heater, whatever. And what that becomes a lien on the house. So when the home is sold, that lien is paid. I don't think we have anything in the county like that.
We do indeed. It runs out of DHCD.
We do have it.
We do, single-family rehab. It is not senior restricted, but more seniors take advantage of it. I think it goes back to the idea of more seniors don't have an opportunity to downsize, would rather stay in their homes anyway. Those homes need a lot of work. So that's exactly what we use. It's limited, but we do have a pretty robust program for that right now.
I'm sure the funds are limited, aren't they? And so maybe that's something we can look to increase. Because I would think that would have a really good return for the county and for the areas that we're trying to rehab, redevelop. What percent of the county, of the homes are owner occupied as opposed to rental?
Two-thirds owner, I think, is that right?
Yeah, we're obviously heavily weighted home ownership, so I think we're almost right at 2/3 home ownership, 1/3 rental.
Okay. And
Yeah, 67% homeowner, 32% rental.
is that higher than most subdivisions in the US? Or?
It's high, but if you were to compare us to other suburban jurisdictions, I imagine you'd find something in that realm.
Right. And of course, there are advantages to home ownership. I think
for sure.
You have the incentive to keep up your property and that kind of thing, and a stronger community association. As a former school teacher, I can tell you that a strong community is going to demand a good school, and it happens. If you have community involvement in the schools, they're going to be good. The schools are good. The real estate values are going to go up. And it sets in place a really good situation for overcoming this problem. I'm interested in being very creative, the county being very creative in this. Now, the program that I just talked about it's not just for seniors, it's for everyone, or is it for seniors?
We have one program that's targeted to renters. We have a program that's targeted to homeowners. And then we work with the Because program. We work closely with the Because program, which is tied to the Department of Aging, which is focused on seniors. We don't run that one, but that's for senior repairs as well. Okay. I mean, the money is limited, but it also goes less far because repairs cost so much more these days, particularly on more complex systems in bigger homes. But they're pretty, I would say they're very comparable to the programs offered by surrounding counties. Okay. Could always enlarge it.
Now, I know when I was in the state legislature, we lowered the amount of discount that with property taxes. In other words, if you pay early, you used to get a larger write-off. And that money was to be used to help people purchase homes in certain areas to help with down payments. Does that program still exist?
So we also actually have a down payment program where we will do forgivable loans for to help with the down payment closing cost. The issue is we've been starting to break this down statistically. The program has limits that we don't control as far as how much, because it's usually federal money. There's limits. What we're finding is that the available homes in the county of a certain price where we can give you enough for the down payment to make sense are like few and far between. So having more starter homes becomes a question of, do you invest in helping get the market to do more high quality, first time homes, smaller homes, or do we put more into the subsidy? Or if the market starts to lower, the subsidy goes farther. So those are open questions, but we do have a program right now that people can apply to get help with their closing costs and down payment on a first time home.
Is that funded through the through having the discount?
No, federal, it's federal funding. We could always, and in the past, years ago, the county subsidized it. I'm not sure what the source was, but they would do more. But that's something that, we do have available.
That it was the source. Was,
Yes.
They
Okay.
lowered the discount. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two questions. One, so we're talking about all of this right now, and there are current policies on the books. What's the status or effectiveness of current practices? One, that we're being effective in enforcing our current policies related to fair and affordable housing.
Just in case I'm making sure I understand, I think we have good processes in place to allow us to get in the middle of a deal and make it happen. And we have good policies and procedures in place, legally and otherwise, to make sure that when we invest in a deal, that we're getting what we expected as far as the right incomes, the right residents. One of the bigger challenges is, where do future deals go? And how do these fit into the broader plan? Like, we don't control the zoning land use conversation. So more often than not, the conversations we have are, we hear you have these great tools. We'd love to do something partially affordable in the county. We have no idea where we'll put it. And that's a bigger conversation. And I think part of any plan has to be, where does it make sense and in what forms? Housing doesn't and shouldn't look the same place everywhere. That's what the needs assessment, I think, points to needing to start to figure out.
And that leads to my my last question. You've asked that a couple times. How do we make sure that our goals are in line with objectives and also standing plans and policies? You also mentioned that we have a great opportunity if we go down the right path. Question being, what is the right path? And then one other piece you're referencing, having to coordinate the focus of our resources to make sure that we're targeting the right areas and that we're working in a holistic way. Begs the question, so what is next then?
Yeah.
From the assessment to, not as the director and as the department, how can we work with you so that that next question of how we're doing that and making sure that this assessment isn't just another report, how are we coordinating after this briefing?
Right. So I have to say, we can't ignore the goals in front of us related to the VCA. Right. And we need to see that through. And we're getting close. We obviously have to advocate. Part of my job is to advocate that in such a resource volatile environment, what can the county put towards this work? And it isn't just housing, right? It's infrastructure upgrades and all the things that go along with it. Like, where's that coming from? What are we able to do at the county level to allow us to help push the market to do these deals in the right way? And there's a lot of ways to do that. Councilman Koch said something really important, which is we're going to have to prioritize. Where do we get the biggest bang for our buck when we put, you could get a lot of bang for your buck in preservation, but you can't only do preservation. You can't only do starter homes. You can't only do self-help, loan programs. So we have to think about that. But I think we have been so, and I know you know this, we have been so reactive on the housing front. You have all actually been wonderful partners in helping us figure out how to get these deals done. But there needs to be a greater understanding of what things fit where, to what degree, what type of housing structure, how are we doing this so that the rules are clear, so that we have developers coming to us saying, not, I already have a deal, take it or leave it, but I want to apply for support. Well, to get that support, you have to be ready to do a deal that has wheelchair accessible units in this part of town where our plan says we want to focus. Or you have to also be willing to do, as part of your deal, home ownership units in this part of town where this is a priority. And right now we're sort of throwing darts and we're getting by.
Feels that way.
But we won't, and there's been some good darts,
Absolutely.
but we won't get here without the broader piece and some consensus. And that's why we're putting all this out there.
Yep.
And hoping to drive some of that conversation.
You also referenced it too. The other result of the study is it's saying that there needs to be coordination to address the holistic issues that go into, one, meeting the need, but also the crisis that we're in. So I'll still ask the question, and I know that you're going to answer it, but not right now, is knowing that, and you've already asked, being a partner, and then what does that look like moving forward now that we have the information and data? So, and happy to work with you and the administration as you all figure out what that next step and that coordination looks like.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Young. Thank you, Director Hickey, Joel as well, sorry. We are, so we'll adjourn, and we're going to take a short 5-minute break, and then we'll be back for the 6 p.m. regular council meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
No.
Even before 6 months though, to then have a schedule. What do we for? We know how we're going to do.
Nobody has a problem.
No, they don't. Now they don't.
You guys are needed in the lobby ASAP so I can take pictures. I didn't do all that work for nothing.
Pictures.
Yeah. Teresa and I didn't do all that work for nothing.
Teresa, not Teresa.
Did you bring your camera?
I'll be fine.
Okay. How are you doing? Huh? Yeah, I need you in the lobby. Real quick, yes.
Where's Julian? Where's Councilman Jones?
Working the crowd.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Legislative Day 20 will now come to order. I would ask that you please pause for a moment of silent meditation. Once again, we have a few different tragedies that have occurred in this weekend, actually. We had a shooting in Australia on a Sydney beach, on Bondi Beach, where 15 people were killed, 42 were hurt. It was a Jewish lighting ceremony. Very tragic incident. And then right here in Rhode Island, we had a freshman and a sophomore at Brown University that were killed, and 9 wounded there as well. And also, if you could keep the family of Thomas Dewberry. Mr. Dewberry was one of our delegates in Baltimore County for many years who represented the Catonsville area. And he died on the 7th of December. So we lost some Baltimore County royalty this week, or last week. So if we could just have a moment of silence for everyone. All right, thank you. The team captains from Perry Hall girls soccer, women's soccer, have agreed to do the pledge tonight for us. So we're gonna follow you in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you will. Whenever you're ready.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. While the Perry Hall women's soccer players are filing out, is there a motion to approve the journal for the meeting of November 3rd?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, journal is approved. Next is enrollment of bills. Bills 7925, 8025, and 8125 were passed by the council, signed by the county executive, and are hereby enrolled. As a correction, Bill 7725, which was enrolled at the November 17th meeting, was returned unsigned by the county executive. Mr. Secretary, will you now read all bills for introduction?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. First is Bill 94-25, Current Expense Budget Professional Development Fund Grant. Bill 95-25 is sponsored by Councilman Ertel, Zoning Regulations, Downtown Towson District Tree Replacement. Bill 96-25 is sponsored by Council Members Marks and Jones, Zoning Regulations, Non-Conforming Dwelling Units. Bill 97-25 is sponsored by Councilman Patoka, Government Reorganization, Office of Immigrant Affairs. And Bill 98-25 is also sponsored by Councilman Patoka, Protections for Non-U.S. Citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I know we have some appointment confirmations.
Yes.
Did you want to call the first?
Yes, sir. The first is the appointment to the Baltimore County Agricultural Preservation Advisory Board, Mr. Mark Travers.
Mr. Travers here tonight?
I'm here
Fine.
virtually.
Hey, Mr. Travers, how are you?
Good. How are you doing this evening, Mr. Council, Mr. Chair?
Good. Thank you for joining us. I don't remember if you had spoke at our work session. Did you want to say a few words?
Yes, sorry, I was not able to make it to the work session and in person tonight. I've got a sick kiddo at home who needs an early bedtime tonight. I've married into the second generation of farming here at One Straw Farm. We're a family-run organic vegetable farm located in Whitehall, Maryland, so the northern part of the county. We've been farming up here for 40 years. Part of our farm is currently in land preservation and part of it is not. So we have a very deeply vested interest in preserving agricultural land use in the county, and know a lot of other farmers who are in a very similar situation to ours.
Okay, great. Any questions from Mr. Travers before? Is there, Councilman Ketch?
I just wanted to
Okay.
move the nomination.
Okay, and I think Councilman Jones seconded it. Yep, a second. I was clicking on the mic. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the appointment of Mr. Travers.
Mr. Ertel,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Marks, Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Young, Mr. Patoka.
Aye.
Okay, appointment is confirmed. Congratulations, Mr. Travers. We appreciate you, your willingness to serve and to be on this important board, and thank you so much for being here tonight. Hope you're,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
is it your son or who's sick?
My daughter.
Well, hopefully she'll feel better, and it's good that her dad's there with her.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, next up, Mr. Secretary.
Next, Mr. Chairman, is the reappointment to the Baltimore County Agricultural Preservation Advisory Board, Ms. Brenda Stromer.
Ms. Stromer with us tonight?
I don't think so. I think she was here. I think Ms. Stromer was at the work
She
session.
was here Tuesday. Okay, so is there a motion to?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the appointment of Ms. Strominger.
Mr. Ertel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Marks, Mr. Crandall, Mr. Young, Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch.
Aye.
Okay, congratulations, Ms. Stromer, wherever you might be tonight. I think then we have some reappointments, and I don't know if
Yes.
any of them are here.
No, I don't believe they are, sir. The council may recall the next three appointments are all reappointments to the Community Reinvestment and Repair Commission. I'll go through each one of them individually, but the next three, they were all appointed earlier this year, and because of an oddity in how the terms were staggered and how they all expired, not staggered, but how they all came about and the timing of filling those positions at the time, it all resulted in their terms expiring at the end of this year. So because they had all been before you within the last 4 to 6 months, rather than bringing them all back to go through the work session, not really go through, but to attend all over again the two meetings, we felt it was appropriate to kind of fast track their confirmations if possible. So that's where we are tonight. And the first is Katie Rouse. She is a reappointment to the Community Reinvestment and Repair Commission.
Okay, and I'll motion to approve Ms. Rouse's appointment.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the appointment of Ms. Katie Rouse.
Mr. Ertel.
Aye.
Mr. Marks.
Aye.
Mr. Crandall.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Patoka.
Aye.
Mr. Catch.
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Okay, appointment is confirmed. Congratulations, Ms. Rouse, wherever you are tonight.
And the next would be Salisa Jefferson, also to the Community Reinvestment and Repair Commission.
And I will motion to approve. She is actually my member.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Ms. Jefferson.
Mr. Ertel.
Aye.
Mr. Crandall.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Patoka.
Aye.
Mr. Catch.
Aye.
Mr. Jones.
Aye.
Mr. Marks.
Aye.
Next up, we have Dr. Farrakhan.
Correct. Dr. Takoya Farrakhan, I think she may be the third district representative.
Yeah.
She is.
I'll move that nomination.
I'll second it. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the appointment of Dr. Farrakhan.
Mr. Ertel,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Marks, Mr. Crandall.
Aye.
Okay, appointment is confirmed. Congratulations, Dr. Farrakhan, wherever you are tonight. And next up, we have the reappointment for the Planning Board of Mr. Derek Johnson. He was here at the work session. I don't know if he's here tonight. Oh, he's on virtually.
And just one quick remark, those three that you just voted on, they will now have full 3-year terms starting January 1st.
Great. Mr. Johnson,
Yes, sir.
how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm at a train station in New Carrollton.
All right, well, we'll make it easy for you because you spoke at the work session. Councilman Marks, sorry.
Yes, I did want to clarify, Mr. Johnson is actually in my district, not the 6th district. But Mr. Johnson, I commend your interest in this, and you have a very strong resume, and I'll be supporting your nomination.
Thank you so much, sir.
Councilman Marks, is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll motion it.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, can you please call the roll on the reappointment of Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Ertel,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Okay, the appointment is confirmed. Congratulations, Mr. Johnson. Have a safe trip, and
Thank you, sir.
we appreciate your willingness to continue to serve on the planning board, and appreciate you being here with us. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, we will now move on to final reading and vote of bills. Mr. Secretary, first item, please.
First, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, is Bill 82-25, current expense budget 988, crisis hotline services.
Okay, and I know Mr. Richardson is here, but does anyone have questions for Mr.? I don't want to drag him up here. I know he's testified at least at one of the work sessions. Is there a motion to approve oh, there's an amendment too, sorry. Do you want to read the amendment?
Sure. It's really two technical amendments, Mr. Chairman. The first would strike the reference to 988 crisis hotline services and substitute 988 trust fund crisis hotline services. And the other amendment just changes the amount from $1,641,445 to $1,485,889.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the amendment to Bill?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Bill 8225.
Mr. Ertel,
Aye.
Mr. Catch,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka.
Aye.
Okay, the amendment passes. Are there any questions or comments from the members on the bill as amended?
I'll move it, sir.
Okay, I'll second it. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 8225 as amended, please.
Mr. Ertel,
Aye.
Mr. Jones,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Young,
Aye.
Mr. Patoka,
Aye.
Mr. Catch.
Aye.
Okay, Bill 8225 as amended is passed. Mr. Secretary, please read the next bill. Thank you.
Next is Bill 83-25, current expense budget crisis services development expansion program.
Okay, and this is also from HHS. Does anyone need Mr. Richardson to talk about this one?
No, sir.
And I believe there's amendment to this as well.
There is, Mr. Chairman. It merely changes the amount from $94,912 to $34,794.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the amendment?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Bill 8325.
Mr. Ertel,
Aye.
Mr. Marks,
Aye.
Mr. Crandall,
Aye.
Mr. Young? Aye. Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Okay, the amendment passes. Are there any questions or comments from the members on Bill 8325 as amended? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 8325 as amended.
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Young? Aye. Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Okay, Bill 8325 as amended is passed. Next bill, Mr. Secretary?
Next is Bill 84-25, Current Expense Budget Long-Term and Dementia Care Program.
Okay, and this is from Department of Aging, I believe? Yes, so, and it looks like Michelle Mills is here to testify if needed, but I know there was testimony at the work session. Does anybody have any questions about this bill? Is there a motion to approve Bill 8425?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 8425.
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Young? Aye. Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Okay, Bill 8425 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Bill 85-25, Current Expense Budget, HSGP.
Okay, and this Assistant Chief Ebert is here tonight, but I know he's testified as well. Does anyone have any questions for the chief? Okay, we will, there's an amendment to this as well, right?
Yes.
Do you want to read that?
That amendment is also somewhat technical in that it just changes the amount from $12,979 to $12,499.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the amendment to Bill 8925?
I'll move
85.
it.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Bill 8925.
85?
80, is it 85? Oh, we have 89 in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. It's correct at the top.
85.
I knew
Yes,
I
sir.
wasn't crazy.
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Okay. The amendments pass. Are there any questions or comments from the members on Bill 8525 as amended? None. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 8525 as amended.
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Young? Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Okay, great. Bill 8525 as amended is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next is,
Also a fire department bill.
yes, next is Bill 86-25, Current Expense Budget Assistance to Firefighters.
No amendments on this one.
Correct.
Any questions or comments from the members on Bill 8625?
I'm all for it, and I'll move it.
Okay, I'll second it. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 8625.
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Young? Aye. Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Okay. Bill 8625 is passed. Just a quick note, Bill 8725 was withdrawn prior to the meeting, so we won't be dealing with that one tonight. And next up, we have Bill 8825.
Yes, sir.
I know if I can take a quick moment of personal privilege, we have a scout troop in the back. Where are you guys from? Troop. Nice. Well, thanks for joining us tonight.
Charles Street.
We have, this is a legislative session, so just, we always tend to comment on these. And for anyone who hasn't been to a council meeting before, we have two kinds of meetings. We have a work session and a legislative session. So often during the legislative session, it sounds like we're just ripping through these bills and voting on them with no discussion, but a lot of the discussion happens at the work session. So we've debated them, talked about the bills. So when you're at a legislative session, we're often just going through them. There might be some debate or comments or questions that still go on, but a lot of times the bills have already been vetted by the time they get to legislative session. And we always have 2 work sessions on every bill, which means the public can weigh in on them. Often we'll have the public comes and talks about some bill that we have in front of us and what their thoughts on it are, for or against. So tonight you're seeing kind of the culmination of some of that work session work. So I just wanted to bring that up. So anyway, thank you for being here. We appreciate you guys being here tonight. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next is Bill 88-25. This is a bill that is sponsored by the chairman at the request of the administration, as well as council members Crandall, Jones, Marks, Catch, and Patoka. Property tax credits for eligible port property.
I see Mr. Tucker's here. Mr. Kavanaugh, I'm sorry. And I don't know that we need you up here. We may have some questions, so I guess we'll call you if we need you. But I know we have several amendments.
Yes.
Did you want to cover those? And Councilman Crandall, did you want to say anything?
Well, let's go over the amendments first, Mr. Chair, if that's okay.
So the amendments offered by council members Crandall and Ertel, they are, and Marks, they are, and everyone should be familiar, I think. These are amendments that the auditor's office first suggested to the bill just to cover kind of the outlying contingencies that could occur on the front end or the back end of the credit. And I know that there have been discussions with the administration on the amendments, as well as, I believe, the representatives from Trade Point Atlantic, and I think everyone is in agreement as to these amendments. What the amendments do is fairly straightforward. They divide the required payment amount into 2 components. A property tax portion that's based on the assessed value and capped at the required payment amount, and then a supplemental payment which applies only during the early build-out period when the assessed value does not yet generate property tax up to the required payment amount. During the initial years, the property tax bill will not yet meet the required payment amount, so the owner would make a supplemental payment to cover the difference. As the facility ramps up to full build-out and the property's assessed value increases, the tax bill will meet or exceed the required payment amount, and the supplemental payment will then not naturally drop down to 0, and the tax credit will apply to the property tax imposed above the required payment amount, consistent with the intent of the legislation. So it doesn't change the required payment or alter the incentive. It just clarifies that the mechanics to ensure that the bill is implemented in an appropriate and transparent way is achieved. So that's what. And then there's also an amendment that for if there is any delay that adds language to the bill that not later than the 10th, that the application of the credit would state that it would not be later than the 10th year following the tax year in which construction of facilities for container operations at the eligible port property commenced. So it would from when it is agreed upon to when it is actually imposed, there would not be a lag of more than 10 years.
Okay.
It would hopefully be much less than that, but that gives some flexibility if there is any delays in construction and that kind of thing.
Yes, sir. Councilman Crandall?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to thank our county auditor, Liz Irwin, for her vigilance on this. She truly looked at the bill, which is fairly complex, looked at it through the lens of an auditor and brought those concerns to us along with some language that our council could work with. And then I want to thank the administration and representatives from Trade Point Atlantic for a very amicable negotiation to understand what potential amendments might mean to the potential of the project and the strategic partnership that is proposing to build the port. So I think these amendments just from a fiduciary sort of standpoint make the bill that much stronger, close some concerns that our auditor and other members of this council had for potential risk to Baltimore County taxpayers. So thanks for all involved, and that's where we are right now. And if there are no other comments by my colleagues, I'll move the amendments. Mr. Chair, Councilman Jones would like to.
No, I guess add me on to that amendment.
Yes, sir.
With that, I'll move the amendment. Laurel.
I'll second them. Is there any other discussion before we vote? Nope. Okay. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendments to Bill 8825.
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Okay, the amendment to Bill 8825 passes. Is there another amendment as well?
There is. Mr. Young, do you want me to speak to it first? Yeah, okay. The amendment is offered by Councilman Young. This is an amendment that would require that the county and the tax credit applicant, in this case the port owner, enter into negotiations for a reporting agreement within 6 months of the county's approval of the tax credit application. The agreement, it would be required that the agreement include at least one development and planning update that is provided to the county at least 1 year prior to the port being operational, and 2, starting with the commencement of the tax credit, a report that is updated at regular intervals, not to exceed 10-year intervals, on the valuation of all property for which a credit is granted and the applicant's tax savings. If the value of the tax credit were to, at some point, exceed 95% of the taxes that would have been due without the credit, the Budget and Finance Director must notify the County Council. So it would be a reporting type of requirement over the period of the tax credit.
Councilman Young?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you.
If I could thank Todd and members of the council that had a chance before the weekend and during the weekend to discuss this, and also the team at TPA, Trade Point Atlantic. The intent was clarified, and language to make sure that what's being done and has been mentioned over the last month of discussing the bill, having it being 50 years and then an extension for a potential another 50 years, a ability to have reporting and make sure that the language was in such a way that was agreeable to Trade Point Atlantic and to the other members, so that the original intent of the bill is not impacted while still being able to, throughout the course of the agreement, have reporting and check-ins related to the status of the grant and how it's affecting your ability to then be competitive and meet the exact needs of what the intent is before us throughout the course of the first 50 years and beyond. So I appreciate the partnership and willingness to dialogue and come to a reasonable addition that I believe makes the bill better and also adds accountability to us as a county government to be able to understand what we're providing and then how we can be helpful also into the future. And with that, if I could, to be consistent too, before taking a vote on the amendment, I'd also like to be added as a co-sponsor of the bill. Happy to answer any questions related to the amendment.
Any questions from the members on the amendment?
Aye, Mr. Chair.
Councilman?
No, I want to thank you, Councilman Young, for your thoughtfulness on this issue and bringing it up. And I, too, will be a co-sponsor of the amendment.
I think it's important that we, as we move on into the future, that we have check-in periods to see how we're doing. That only makes sense.
Thank you, Councilman.
And Mr. Chair, I just want to thank Councilman Young for his continued conversation over the last 3 or 4 days. There was a decent amount to talk about with some of the ideas we both had. And we were able to get to this point where we had a friendly amendment to the bill.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Councilman Patoka and Marks.
Well, we're thanking, Councilman Crandall, I want to thank you for sharing Councilman Young's thoughts on this, on the amendment with me. So thank you for keeping me filled in.
Councilman Marks, did you?
No, just that this is a consequential piece of legislation. I've said before that the assistance we provided with Trade Point Atlantic in 2015 and 16 was one of the most important bills that the council's passed in the 21st century. And, you know, the terms of this will outlive most of us in this room probably. So it's important we get it right, and thank all my colleagues for their review of this.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Marks. Anybody else? Councilman Ketch, you good? All right. All right. Is there a motion to approve the amendment to Bill 8825? Did we have a motion?
So, second.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the second amendment to Bill 8825.
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Okay, amendments pass.
And that's all the amendments.
Both amendments?
Yep, that's everything.
Right. So are there any questions or comments from the members on Bill 8825 as amended at this point?
Yes, Mr. Chair, unless someone, there's a lot of green
A lot
buttons.
of green mics on. Do you want a motion, or it doesn't look like there's real questions?
Okay. No question. Are we ready to comment on the bill itself?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to do.
Okay. Councilman
Thank you, Mr.
Crandall, the
Chair.
floor is yours.
All right. So I just, I said a little bit about this in the first work session we had on this bill, and I'm going to take a little bit of time, and I hope it's okay with everyone here. My first term started in 2014, and Trade Point Atlantic wasn't even named Trade Point Atlantic at that time. And what we kind of started at the same time. Trade Point was in business, but the full demolition of the Bethlehem Steel property was just underway. And when you think about it, just a short time ago, 12 years ago, it was an industrial wasteland, an environmental disaster. And the investors at Trade Point came in and initially put in $48 million without any public money at all to mitigate the environmental problems on the property. I'm sure they put in quite a bit more than that after that initial $48 million. So subsequent to that, demolition occurs, and environmental mitigation, a lot of regulatory bodies out there making sure the environmental stuff was cleaned up. And before you knew it, large buildings, some of the largest buildings in the state of Maryland are going up, with Amazon and McCormick and FedEx and Under Armour and Floor & Decor and major retailers coming in, and other businesses of a more diverse nature start coming in, and they become tenants at Trade Point. And during that time, I had a meeting, met often with people at Trade Point Atlantic. I had a meeting with Aaron Tamarchio, and Aaron, he said, we want to be philanthropic in our community, and we would like to make an impact. And if you have a big ask, let me know, and I'll run it up the flagpole and see if we can make it happen or not. So at the time, Sparrows Point High School needed a turf field. And it wasn't because they wanted one because everyone else in the county was getting one. Their field is at sea level, and it was basically asking teams to play in the mud. So a turf field was the answer. The county executive at the time, Kevin Kamenetz, told the school and the rec council that if they could come up with I think it was $150,000, then he would fund the rest. So I went to Mr. Tamarchio and I said, I think I found something where you make a huge impact for thousands of young people that need an athletic field to play on. A couple weeks later, I get a call from Aaron. I got $100,000 for you. Now that just doesn't happen. Companies just don't normally do that. They weren't required to do it. They just did it because they realized that they stepped into a community that has an emotional attachment to this particular property. Councilman Jones and I certainly have an emotional attachment to the property. Years go by, Trade Point starts to get more and more tenants and build the property out. No small task. And the job numbers tick up, went from 0 to 1,000, 2,000, another report 5,000. The county comes in, really only public ask for a deal with the county, other than some legislation that we did to help with some zoning relief, especially for the commercial aspect of the property back in 2015. And county executive at the time, Johnny Olszewski, comes to me and says, you ever talk to Trade Point about maybe getting some land from them so we can do something for a public benefit for some land? I said, yeah, that I have had discussions and I think they're willing to take a look at that. And they were. Land donation in excess of just over 20 acres donated to Baltimore County on the waterfront. I don't know what the value of that parcel was, but it couldn't have been insignificant. And Trade Point then, Baltimore County said, we're going to build a waterfront park. And Trade Point said, we'll put in another $250,000 in order to create that park and a rec center. When I started on the council in 2014, one of the biggest things that I had heard in Edgemere was, we don't have a community center. We don't have an adequate rec center. We now have one, and we would not have one without the partnership with Trade Point Atlantic. Now, with respect to the port project and the tax incentive that we're considering tonight, Trade Point is not asking for public dollars, unlike in other places where public dollars are going into port projects. And I think we heard testimony to that fact in the last work session. So $1 billion investment by a strategic partnership between Trade Point Atlantic and the largest shipping company in the world coming to Baltimore County and not asking for a single public dollar to build $1 billion port. What they're asking for is a tax incentive. And the reason that I sponsored the bill or co-sponsored the bill was because I've come to understand how competitive the shipping industry is. And a private port is unknown. The private port does not exist, I don't think, in the whole United States. This is a historic moment. This is something that we're all going to look back on and be proud that we were part of it, because this bill makes a port in Baltimore County a more competitive entity in the global marketplace and on the East Coast. So that's my main reasons for supporting the bill. I do want to say, however, that with success comes some consequences. So when you have a multimodal, or I think that's the right word, logistics center such as Trade Point, coupled with the growth of the Port of Baltimore, coupled with the old GM plant becoming a huge Amazon facility, our community has more heavy trucks moving through it than it ever has, and it is a community that it was not designed or built. We were industrial. We've always been industrial with Bethlehem Steel and GM and other manufacturers, but it was not designed for this amount of heavy trucks. So there needs to be some attention paid by the county and the state, and to some extent the Fed, on what we're going to do to better improve our infrastructure. And that could come down to closing certain routes and forcing trucks onto other routes. It could come down to other potential funding mechanisms that we're looking into now. And it comes down to the administration looking at the traffic study or the road quality study that was done a few years ago that shows that the 7th District has the worst rated roads in Baltimore County, yet we do not receive an equitable component of road resurfacing money, even though we have the most underserved roads in Baltimore County. So that's something that I would be advocating for in this budget season. So I am not discounting the fact that success has consequences. But you also, you have to look at, I don't think that you can look at this particular bill in a vacuum and say, well, this is our opportunity to fix all these problems that the success of the project so far has caused, because this is only one business entity on Trade Point Atlantic. There are plenty of other tenants who have a lot of trucks moving in and around the 7th District on their way inbound and outbound. The Port of Baltimore is as big as it's ever been, and you have Amazon on Burning Highway, as I mentioned. So there's a lot of pressure, but it's not this one project that is going to put the pressure on and should bear the brunt of some sort of thing that would really throw this tax incentive program that we're considering, would throw it out of whack. So I just wanted to get that out on the table. But you know, I tell you, what I've seen Trade Point Atlantic accomplish in such a short time, I've come to just believe in them as a business unit. They conduct quarterly town hall meetings with the community. They've become part of the community. They've been philanthropic. A lot of things that I don't even know about or find out at a later date that they've sponsored or funded. They've been a good partner in the community, and I'm just, this is a really proud moment, you know, as a Dundalk kid whose dad was a steel worker, to see something like this come to fruition after so many years of it being talked about for decades. And we're on the cusp of actually incentivizing the project and seeing something really special come to Baltimore County and to the 7th District. So with that, I said I was going to go on long, and I'm sorry if I went on a little longer than most people are used to, but this is a really big moment. So I just didn't want to minimize it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Crandall. Councilman Jones?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Councilman Crandall, for taking me back down memory lane, having been here like you since the inception of Trade Point Atlantic. And I'm not going to belabor the point as long as you have. Wow. That's no fun. But what I will say is something you brought up.
Bang the gavel now. Cut him off.
Something you brought up that's so important, which is that your father and my father both worked at Bethlehem Steel. My father was there for 42 years. And that job, maybe it was a digit or a statistic to some, but it was the lifeline for my family. And it took care of my family. It made sure we had a roof over our head and food in our belly and an opportunity to go on and do great things because of that one job. So it's not lost on me the number of jobs that Trade Point Atlantic has created thus far. And it's really interesting when you look at the number of jobs, when we help out and we've done our part in terms of being supportive, these jobs are not just in Baltimore County. They have been able to provide me proof that these jobs are in Harford County, Baltimore County, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, and these jobs are really changing a lot of lives. And now we're talking about a container terminal producing up to maybe 8,000 jobs, 8,000 good paying jobs, 8,000 families. And to me, that's where it all is, and that's very important to me, and that's why I've been very proud to be supportive. And I might just add, as we look at this moving forward, this tax credit is credit on taxes that we don't have, that don't exist. unless this project moves forward. It don't exist unless this project move forward and be successful. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Jones. Councilman Marks, did you?
Yeah, briefly. One more thing. The thing that Republicans and Democrats, I think, can agree on, not just at the local, but also the state and federal levels, is that there's a role for government in advancing innovation and economic development. And we've seen it throughout this country's history, right? The National Road, Transcontinental Railroad, the interstate highway system, airports, and now here, because we're really helping to spur transportation infrastructure. And I think it should be noted, you know, there is a bipartisan consensus around this. I do want to acknowledge we have some of the union workers here in the room. If you could please stand up. If you're here representing. Which one?
So,
thank you for coming tonight.
I think we have local 37 here. The carpenters are here. 33? Is that right? Like I said, 100 and whatever. I didn't hear the rest of it. Like, what he said. Is ILA here tonight? I see where their priorities are. That's a longshoreman for you. All right. I just want to acknowledge the union folks that are here this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Mr. Marks did, and I cleaned it up for him.
Thank you, sir. All right, is there any other comments before we get to a motion? Is there a motion to approve Bill 8825?
I will move the bill.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 8825 as amended.
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Okay, Bill 8825 as amended is passed, and as Councilman Crandall said, we believe this really truly is historic. Okay, next up, you'd think that on a night like this, bond ordinance would be most exciting. So, Mr. Reed, did you want to?
Yeah, just as important, Mr. Chairman, but maybe not as much bling. Bill 89-25, bond ordinance.
Mr. Chair, good evening, council members. There's some bling in this. I mean, this is our, we do it annually once a year where we ask permission via section 709 of the county charter to the ability to issue bonds and debt and refinance throughout the next year. And particularly this issuance is $358 million of bonds and bonds in anticipation notes up to, and that would include $198 million in CPI and $160 million in Metro District bonds. We will most likely be going to market in the late winter, spring, and the March timeframe. And this is the approval to borrow up to those amounts as we move forward. And I believe there's a couple technical amendments.
A couple amendments.
Yeah.
Mr. Secretary, did you want to cover those?
Yes, they are technical. Under the description for county-wide improvements, strike 218001 and substitute 218100. On page 83 in chart 1, under Baltimore County Public Works bonds, under the column other sources of funds for projects, strike strike 25672 and substitute $2,575,072. And then later in the bill, there are some amounts that are being changed on page 86 in section 8 of the bill under the column total cost of projects, strike $219,041,976 and substitute $423,788,257. Under the column other sources of funds for projects, strike $100,066,641 and substitute $101,511,143. Strike $31,239,511 and substitute $167,855,413. And then two more, strike $22,643,159 and substitute $123,455,379. And then strike $44,092,665 and substitute $22,966,322. If I went a little fast, these amendments are in your books for your review.
Okay. Are there any questions about the amendments? Nope. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the amendments?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on the amendment to Bill 8925.
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Okay. Are amendments passed? Are there any questions or comments from the members on Bill 8925 as amended? Is there a motion to approve Bill 8925 as amended?
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Secretary, can you please call the roll on Bill 8925 as amended?
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Okay, Bill 8925 as amended is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
The final bill for final reading and vote this evening is Bill 90-25, sponsored by Councilman Marks, zoning regulations, Honeygo area sidewalks.
Do you want to talk about this briefly?
Very
Marks?
briefly. Yeah,
I know we've talked about it at work session.
right. This simply put creates an exemption for the construction of sidewalks in Perry Hall's Honeygo area if the area is nearby a hiker biker trail.
Is there a motion? Any questions before, I'm sorry, any questions from the members before we?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 9025.
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Okay, Bill 9025 is passed. And now we'll move on to fiscal matters. The council will now consider all fiscal matters. Extensive testimony was taken at the council's work session on December 9th. Witnesses who testified at the work session are available to restate their testimony if needed. If a council member has any questions regarding a particular fiscal matter, that item will be discussed as a separate matter. I will now call upon the secretary to read the cover letter for fiscal matters 1 and 2, and I apologize to Major Hartman and Ms. Schindel for belaboring you here tonight, but sorry, you got the Wydick treatment, Mr. Major.
Oh, wow.
So you can feel it like you're in good company. Mr. Secretary.
The two items are, one, a contract with Urban Development Solutions Incorporated, and fiscal matter 2 is 3 contracts for on-call HVAC services.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the members on the fiscal matters? Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Hey, Mr. Secretary, can you please call the roll on fiscal matters 1 and 2?
Mr. Ertel?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Aye. Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Patoka?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We will now consider the remainder of miscellaneous business. Mr. Secretary, first item, please.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, whenever a contract over $25,000 is awarded by a process other than formal competitive bid, it is required that a copy of the contract be given to the county council and the nature and parties to the contract be announced by the secretary at the next legislative session following the award of the contract. There are two such contracts this evening. The first is a purchase order with Pack Industries LLC. This is for the purchase of commercial laundry equipment replacement. This is for the detention center, and Pack Industries LLC is knowledgeable about the specific requirements and constraints of correctional facilities. That is what justifies their selection. The award total is $54,696.83. And finally, a supplier contract with Moody's Analytics Incorporated. This contract is, or Moody's Analytics, I should say, is used by the state and other local jurisdictions to provide local economic forecast data integral to the formation of the county's budget. Continued use of Moody's will provide consistent forecast data. The estimated 5-year award total of this agreement is $62,000.
Is that you, Mr. Reed? Oh, good. Glad you have the Moody's Analytics. All right. Mr. Secretary, is there any further business to come before the council?
There is no further business, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Do have something.
Oh, Councilman Marks?
Thank you. Just very briefly, because I learned about this tonight. Earlier this year, the county council passed a resolution urging for the state to deny the permit at Days Cove Rubble Landfill. We've learned tonight that the Board of Public Works will consider a new permit for that facility. But it does look like there might be a win here in that they're seeking a closure of the facility within 7 years. I just wanted to bring this to the council's attention. In keeping with the resolution that we passed earlier this year, it seems to me that the board should condition the approval of any new permit on a no discharge from that facility. But some interesting news that we've just learned about.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Marks.
Thank you, Councilman Marks. Is there a motion to adjourn? I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye. All right, motion is adjourned. As is customary, anyone who's registered to speak online prior to the meeting is allowed 3 minutes to speak. Ms. Belcastro, I know we have a few speakers. Did you want to call the first?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Our first speaker is Anita Bass, who is on virtually. Ms. Bass, you may unmute yourself and begin your testimony when you're ready.
Good evening. You can hear me?
Yes,
we can.
hear you, Ms. Bass.
This is Anita Bass from Local 4538, Baltimore County Public Library and Apple Store. I am here once again speaking to hopefully get some information after this meeting that we can secure the 14 part-time librarians that were hired and then reinstated. We need to find out and get information on if their job is secure past June 30th, 2026. We do not know, and they do not know. They were told it was on pause, the removal of their jobs, and also that there was going to be a softer way or a softer blow to remove them. We need to get clear of that. We need information to have that clear. The other thing I would like to bring up is because of the stuff that has happened with our county library system, we are asking that the HR department be outsourced by Baltimore County. I'm sure you can't answer me on any of that, anytime soon, but I would like to have a meeting with the council, with the county executive about that. And that's what I'm here to speak for. Thank you.
Councilman Patoka?
Thank you, Ms. Bass. This is Councilman Izzy Patoka here. What I was going to suggest is we're entering budget season shortly, and we'll be having testimony from different agencies that get called in. And so, Mr. Chair, I've shared with you, I don't know if it's publicly on the dais or in the conversation, that perhaps we don't get a chance to call every agency in, But I think given the dynamics of the Baltimore County Public Libraries, that this year perhaps we can call libraries in for their budget hearing, for a budget hearing, and also, Ms. Bass, you know, the way you articulate public policy is through your budget. And so to me, if our public policy is to support librarians, then in this case, we should articulate that through the budget. And so it's something that we'll discuss in our budget deliberations and get more clarity. And also, while the county council has limited authority, we cannot add money, we cannot redirect money, we can only cut. We still should have some discussion of the money that is appropriated and how it's used within an agency. So I would say, stay tuned, Ms. Bass, to the budget hearing for Baltimore County Public Libraries. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Jones.
Yes, Ms. Bass, thank you so much for your advocacy and your work in protecting the workers of the library. I was just sitting here thinking that if I were you, I would not lose any sleep at all over the disposition of those 14 workers. I got a feeling they're going to be here to stay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would, Ms. Bass and others in the room who are concerned about what happened with our 14 librarians. Yes, you can wait until April or May when the budget is submitted, but my advice to you is to work with the administration now. And if there's budget language that's needed to protect certain employees or would change a way that the libraries operate, now's the time to do it. And so I would strongly suggest that you contact our county executive's office and work on this issue so it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Catch.
Yeah, one additional comment, Councilman Catch made me think of this, is there's going to be a series of budget town halls in each district. And so that's a wonderful, although it's in budget season, but it's a great way to express your concerns to the county executive's leadership team. And that way it can be vetted through that process and addressed hopefully through that process.
Thank you, Councilman Patoka. Ms. Belcastro, next.
Next speaker is Taft Mangus, who is on virtually. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony when you're ready.
Good evening, Chair and Councilors. I'm also here to speak on behalf of the 14 librarians that their positions run through the 2026 budget year. I have a 7-month-old son, and we go to the library at least weekly, sometimes twice a week. He loves the children's crafts and the story times. So those libraries need to be open and staffed and safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mangus. I see you hail from the 6th District. I don't know. There you go. Next speaker.
Our next speaker is Kelly Madigan, who is here in person.
Ms. Madigan, how are you? Excuse me. Thought she was leaving. Hit the, there you go.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of County Council. Thank you for my 3 minutes. I wanted to come and take this opportunity to speak about ways to strengthen the IG's office via statute. I want to be on the record as saying that I met with you, Mr. Chairman, in August of this summer and identified a series of things that the IG statute needed so that it could be strengthened. There has been a call from the Baltimore County Public for transparency in government and ways to preserve and strengthen the office. So I then met with you and members of your staff in October, seeking those tweaks that we discussed. I have emails to the administration and have met with the administration asking for those. I care very deeply about these tweaks. I think they are necessary and will serve to strengthen the office. The first request I am asking for is that the word direct be added to the statute under section 314-107, powers of the office. In fact, that is a recommendation that was made by the Blue Ribbon Commission. You may recall that the prior administration selected 7 members from the public to carry their work in the public domain. They took testimony and came up with a 217-page report where they identified 20 recommendations. Those were areas that the administration asked them to look into. I'm going to offer this as an exhibit for part of my testimony, but under IG access to materials and records, the commission recommends that the Office of the Inspector General have direct access to government records and materials whenever possible. I would make that request. It's a best practice in the IG community. It's what every federal IG has. Most state and local IGs have it. My second request is that the affirmative duty to report, which is currently an executive order, be added to the statute. I believe this is also a best practice, and that should be added to the statute under section 314-107-4. The language can be the same, but right now it's an executive order, which doesn't carry the same weight as including it in the statute. It's also a best practice and was something that the Blue Ribbon Commission also recommended. I'm also requesting that the statute state that IG reports are not personnel records. The statute already states that all IG reports are subject to the MPIA, and as an, I guess that's my time. Oh, I can keep going. As an independent office, the IG could never be in a position of issuing discipline. One of the requirements for whether or not a personnel record would be considered a mandatory denial under the MPIA is whether or not the undersigned person was in a position to implement disciplinary action. So again, I would request under 314-110A, when it's talking about that IG reports are public reports subject to disclosure, that language be included to say that IG reports are not personnel records. I'm also requesting that the IG be added to the charter as an agency that has the ability to request legal opinions from the county attorney. I think it's important to be on the record, as you and I have discussed, Mr. Chairman. I have these emails back and forth, which are the position of the office, why they're important, where they should be added to the statute. I believe they will strengthen the statute. I'm also going to offer an abbreviated version of the Blue Ribbon Commission's final report that was issued on February 16th, 2023. There are a few of these recommendations that still haven't been implemented, and I would ask that they be implemented. And then I am going to turn to the public and ask the public, I'm going to pass the baton and ask them to carry the mission forward of strengthening the IG statute and strengthening the office, because I think there has been a call for transparency and demand from the public for a strong IG's office. Thank you.
Ms. Madigan, and I think everyone knows that Ms. Madigan is leaving us for the Howard County IG's office, and we know that you have taken this department from 0 to what it is now, and it's been a somewhat challenging journey. But we commend you for all the hard work you've done putting this office together. I guess kind of learning with the county as to what the role is, how it works. So sometimes good, sometimes bad, but, you've really been, you're like the first child where you get all the scrutiny. So we appreciate everything you've done. And, you can see obviously your compassion for this while you're still advocating as you're, potentially leaving in the next. So, thank you for all you've done. Councilman Bozak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Madigan, I too want to thank you. You've started, I've shared this with you in the past, and I'll share it with you publicly, that one of the most difficult things in government to do is to change, to create something new. In some cases, we're still trying to get off of 1956 when we became a charter agency. But here, we created a new agency in, what year was it?
2020. I started
2020.
6 weeks before the pandemic.
Yes, and so I have created a new agency during parts of my career, and it was very difficult. And given the nature of the work program of an inspector general's office, that's changed, but that's also a cultural, a dynamic shift of the way we operate. I can recall in these chambers, this is how difficult. An example of how difficult, Mr. Chair, it is to bring change to Baltimore County is one of our colleagues here admonished Ms. Madigan for having double-sided cards right here in this chambers. And it might have been virtual. It might not have been in this chambers. But I mean, that's how resistant we were to change. Imagine that. Any other agency had coming in from an existing agency that had existed and said, listen, I'm trying to make sure that people are aware of my agency, so I'm going to have two-sided cards. And to me, that was indicative of like, wow, something is so different here. This resistance to change is overwhelming. And in Baltimore County, we've had a history that we've done many good things, but there are things that we haven't done so well. And so the work program of the Inspector General's office is to make sure we are doing things appropriately. There is some level of transparency, and that people are held accountable, that we reduce fraud, waste, and abuse. And in the beginning, I think you also had the Ethics Commission as well. And so the true worth of our work in places that we've come to and places that we leave is, does that organization that we helped to create, does it exist beyond our time there? And I think here you should pat yourself on the back, as I'm going to pat you on the back metaphorically, that the agency that you helped to create is going to exist beyond your time here. So well done, Ms. Madigan.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Well, wait, hold on, Mr. Chair.
Randall and
Yeah, I'll just say something very briefly. Ms. Madigan, thank you for your service to Baltimore County. Whoever fills your shoes in the future, I hope that it is under an administration that does not ask you to pick and choose which reports that you can publish or not publish or send to the administration. Thank you, Ms. Madigan. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Madigan.
Who do I give these to?
You want to give them to the secretary and he'll give them to, she had some.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Our next speaker is Joel Paley, who is on virtually. Mr. Paley, you may unmute yourself and begin your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Chair and the County Council, for letting me speak today. My name is Joel. I'm a public school teacher in Baltimore. As a proud union member, I have found it abhorrent and problematic that taxpayer dollars were being used by the previous Baltimore County Library CEO for union busting. Lawyers hired to intimidate our own public employees. Library workers are such an important piece of our community, and they do not have enough help to do their jobs. A library can be a safe, inviting, and useful place for the community only if it's well-staffed. When a library is not well-staffed, the quality of the space depreciates quickly. I would not feel comfortable recommending parents to send their students to a library to conduct research or as a quiet place to study if I felt there wasn't sufficient staffing there. As you have already heard today from librarians themselves, they've made it clear that they need those 14 part-time positions to continue past June of 2026 at a bare minimum. We need to invest in our public workers so that our schools and our libraries can meet the need that we ask them to meet. Not union busting lawyers interested in making a quick buck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker.
Next speaker is Tim Fazenbaker, who is here in person.
How are you, Mr. Fazenbaker?
Well, how are you?
Good.
Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas. Good evening, council members and fellow American citizens of Baltimore County. My name is Tim Fazenbaker. I'm here tonight to strongly oppose any bill or policy that would turn Baltimore County into a sanctuary for illegal aliens. We must put the safety, resources, and future of our law-abiding citizens first. Baltimore County has over 850,000 residents, as you know, hardworking families, parents raising kids, seniors on Social Security, and those struggling just to get by. Hundreds of thousands of us demand that our laws be enforced and illegal aliens be removed. Sanctuary status or anything like that would defy federal immigration enforcement and invite chaos. Worse, by refusing to cooperate with the feds, we risk losing approximately $500 million in federal funding, stuff that could go for the librarians, as other people have talked about. We can't afford to gamble away $500 million to shield those who broke our laws. Look at the human cost across Maryland. Innocent lives have been shattered by illegal aliens who never should have been here. 20-year-old Kayla Hamilton, a young woman with autism, brutally raped and murdered in Harford County by an illegal alien MS-13 gang member from El Salvador. Rachel Marin, a mother of 5, raped and murdered on a trail in Bel Air by another illegal alien from El Salvador. 19-year-old Takara Thompson in Prince George's County, murdered by an illegal alien from Guatemala. And Kilmar Abreu Garcia, an illegal alien and MS-13 gang member linked to violence and human smuggling right here in Maryland. These tragedies are heartbreaking and preventable. When we allow illegal aliens who won't assimilate to stay, we endanger our communities. Bringing the third world, we risk becoming the third world. More crime, strained housing, overwhelmed resources taken from our poor, our elderly, and our children. Council members, supporting sanctuary for illegal aliens isn't compassion. It's putting outsiders over your own people. That is why I am from Dundalk, and that is one thing that I was taught about Dundalk. We took care of our own. We have Americans who can't afford heat, who can't even put our veterans in a better situation. It's discriminatory against American citizens, and it's a betrayal. Reject any bill that cooperate with federal authorities. Protect Baltimore County residents and secure our funding. Do not be a traitor to your people. Real men lead, sissies placate. No more illegal aliens. Thank you. God bless our county, and God bless America.
Mr. Fazenbaker, thank you for your testimony, and I'm assuming you're speaking to the pair of Trust Act bills that I introduced this evening.
Yes.
And I will say I introduced these two bills because I'm moved by my faith. My faith, one of the core tenets of my faith is to welcome the stranger, not to lock yourself inside your own community, but to welcome other communities. And I met with some CASA representatives who are here today, and I in the meeting this afternoon, I said, this issue is going to bring out emotions in people, and they're emotions that are dynamic, emotions that are extreme. And in my experience, the two extreme emotions that we have are love and hate. And so I'm going to choose to move forward with these two bills with the emotion of love. And I'm going to push back against the emotion of hate. But I want to thank you for your testimony.
Sir? All right, Ms. Belcastro, next speaker.
Our next speaker is Nicole Dvorak, who is on virtually. You may unmute yourself and begin your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you so much. Can the council hear me?
Hear you, Ms. Dvorak.
Thank you so much. Good evening, council members. My name is Nicole Dvorak. I'm a former Baltimore County Public Library staff member and Union Executive Board member, Machinist Local 4538. I was on the very first union contract negotiating team on behalf of Baltimore County Library staff and worked at both the Catonsville and Randallstown branches. And I've testified before this council many times. Obviously, a lot has happened within the Baltimore County library system in the past month with the departure of both of the head of HR and the library CEO. Despite the fact that members of the library administration, including those in HR and the CEO, were responsible for unnecessary and avoidable harm towards library staff, I want to tell you yet again that the Library Board of Trustees is not an innocent party when it comes to how library staff are treated. Last year, on December 10th, 2024, when the council listened to testimony regarding what people wanted to see in the next county executive, I testified in person, and my testimony included the following because one of the people who wanted the job was and still is on the library board. Quote, the Baltimore County Library Board of Trustees paid lobbyists to try and kill state legislation that would have made sure we couldn't unionize so that we would stay financially struggling, end quote. Since at least 2021, the Baltimore County Library Board has approved and renewed a contract with Cornerstone, a lobbying firm that lobbies in Annapolis and elsewhere. The now former library CEO and the hired lobbyist testified repeatedly before the Baltimore County State Delegation against legislation that would have given library staff the right to unionize. Councilmember Pat Young is familiar with this because he was delegate at the time that we were trying to pass this legislation. Earlier this year, both the former library CEO and the board's paid Cornerstone lobbyist testified in front of the Baltimore County delegation again, this time against House Bill 1071, legislation that would have given BCPL supervisors the right to unionize. That legislation was killed, which is what the library board paid for. In June of this year, the board renewed the contract with Cornerstone for yet another year. Any idea put forth that paints the Library Board of Trustees as some innocent, know-nothing party is simply politically convenient, and any notion that they will not attempt the same abuses again in 2026 is severely misguided. I also remain extremely concerned that money to fund these anti-union, anti-public employee efforts is being funneled through the Library Foundation, in addition to public funds being used for these efforts. Questions from council members regarding this need to be asked in the coming county budget sessions. Thank you, and a friendly reminder that library jobs are in fact union jobs. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilman Jones.
Yes, Mr. Dvorak, thank you again for your advocacy for the many years and continuing to stand up and speak for the members of the library. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Dvorak. Also to confirm, I do appreciate your years of advocacy for the members of the library and the board, and do remember the right before we all had to break for COVID, the fight to unionize at the state level, or at least authorize the opportunity for collective bargaining at the Baltimore County Public Libraries. I did want to ask, and maybe this should have been a question for Ms. Bass when she was here, but I'll ask you now, is now that there is a union in place and they're about to go into, I would say, interviews, but also putting out for a new library director, are you aware of any role that the union's going to be asked to play in identifying or interviewing or engaging with the hiring process for the new director?
That's a great question, council member, and I appreciate it. I would defer to the library union president, Anita Bass, for that question. I am not aware of what that process will look like.
No worries. Appreciate you confirming that, and I will make sure to follow up with Ms. Bass. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Young. Ms. Belcastro, next speaker.
Next speaker is Julie Ohanian. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. You may begin your testimony. You may unmute yourself.
Hi there, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, good evening to everyone here, to members of the council. My name is Julie Ohanian. As a parent, I regularly rely upon county libraries to introduce my daughter to the wonderful world of information, of literature, of characters and stories. And as a community space that is always free and beats expensive early childhood programming elsewhere. As a teacher, I know my students and their families rely on the very same. In a country where we've seen public spaces and services whittled away for decades, our library stands as a last example of what we can have when we invest real public money in real public goods. This is in large part due to the workers that make these libraries run each day. The decision to fire 14 essential librarians was not in the public interest. We need more librarians, not fewer. We need more and better public investment, not less. We have entrusted you all with the power to make these decisions on our behalf. These 14 part-time positions are clearly needed. We cannot simply do without them. We need to find it in our budgets to make room for quality public services as a priority. And we need to find a CEO and administrative staff that can respect the essential nature of the loving work public servants like these do every day for every one of us. Enough of allowing our hard-earned tax money to go to union-busting lawyers. They don't do anything for me, for my family. These librarians do. And that union of theirs is fighting for us as much as it's fighting for them. Their working conditions, those are our living conditions. What they fight for is good for us too. Let them have their union, and I ask you to make these 14 jobs permanent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Belcastro, next speaker.
Next speaker is Peter Richkis, who is here in person.
Ms. Richkis, how are you tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm well.
Good.
And members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I and so many other people are looking forward to seeing the bills that Councilman Patoka has introduced today, because the majority of people in Baltimore County understand his motivation of love and the fact that we are all one human family. I'm sure there will be an outpouring of support, and facts will be brought to bear as opposed to hateful rhetoric. I also wanted to add my thanks to Chairman Ertel, Councilman Crandall, Councilman Patoka's comments about our outgoing Inspector General. Kelly Madigan had a very tough job, as you've acknowledged, and she made a difference in terms of the accountability that the departments and individuals were held to. As you said, Mr. Patoka, a change is hard, but this change is something that has been needed in Baltimore County, made progress under Inspector General Madigan, but needs to go further. All of the recommendations that the Inspector General made this evening are, in the main, included in the Blue Ribbon Commission report, and advocates for transparency and accountability supported the commission, its work, and their recommendations. I urge you to take those recommendations seriously. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you, Mr. Richkis. Okay, Ms. Belcastro, I think we have.
Our final speaker this evening is Robert Jackson. I think this may be Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, you may unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just wanted to speak out in support of the 14 librarians. I don't have much to add. I just wanted to come out and say that I think those jobs should be made permanent. And I found it very disturbing that tax dollars were potentially spent to, go against the union. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Okay, well, that is truly the end of the night. And so we will officially adjourn. Anyway, I don't know what you're saying. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. We actually are not meeting again until the holidays hit. So we wish everybody a very happy holiday season. Hopefully you'll get to spend lots of time with your family and friends. And we will see you in the new year. Yes, Councilman Katz.
A quick question. With the two bills that Councilman Patoka has introduced, are there going to be one work session on those two bills? Or
two.
Two. When will they be then? Because one's going to be this.
January 13th.
Right, because we have, excuse me, as the chair indicated, we have no more meetings through the end of the year, which means no work session at the end of this month. So the first work session on Mr. Patoka's bills, like the other bills that were introduced tonight, will be January 13th, then January 27th, and final reading and vote on both will be February 2nd.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Another historic moment will be February 2nd will be our last meeting in this chamber, most likely.
For a while.
While they, the construction of the new dais and handicap or handicapped access, we're actually going to put some handicap areas for seating as well. That will be done, that will start in early February. And we'll go through, I think we'll be back in business in October. So we
will be in the plum room?
It looks like we will most likely.
TBD.
Yeah, to be announced, but it looks like we may be meeting in the planning department's area. So, yes.
Mr. Chair, the rumors that we're meeting at 305 Washington Avenue are untrue.
They could be true, but we may have to do a meeting there. We also talked about there may be a need to do a virtual meeting here and there if there's a schedule conflict of some kind. But February 2nd looks like our last time on this dais. We're looking forward to a beautiful new spot that will seat 9. Won't have the carpet on the wall in front of us, although apparently one of my staff members thinks the carpet is beautiful.
Mr. Chairman, will I have a grown person chair?
You will have a new chair. Yeah, yes, you will. You will. We're actually getting some new furniture as well.
Councilman Cat, I would say there's one member on the dais that can rectify your situation. Someone's messing with your chair. Councilman Jones knows how to.
I can fix it.
He can fix it.
He can fix it.
He's the only one of us that knows how to fix it.
He's got an awesome toolbox.
Okay.
Councilman Catcher, I think that was Councilwoman Bevan's chair, and that's why it's so low.
And by the way, we are doing the renovation that was originally estimated to possibly be as high as $12 to $15 million for much less, for probably around 650-ish.
Did you say 15 million?
15 million was the, well, we're not going to reconfigure the offices. We're
not going to have gold fixtures?
No gold fixtures, no marble countertops. So anyway, thank you again. Be safe going home, and we appreciate everybody being here.